Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to do a pocket weaving with pretty much just materials you probably already have around your house. So every year my fourth graders make pocket weavings at school. This year we didn't get to make pocket weavings because I usually save it for like third or fourth quarter, and we're not at school for fourth quarter. So I'm going to show you an awesome easy way to make a pocket weaving without needing any yarn, any string. All you need is some old shirts that either like have stains. This one has some stains that I just can't get out, or are just torn up or just too small. A piece of cardboard, corrugated cardboard, like kind of has a little zigzag inside, works best because it's a little harder. If you don't have that though, you can totally just use cardboard from a cereal box. This is much easier to cut, but it's also a little bendier. So if you use this, I'd cut out two pieces the same size and like tape them or glue them together just to make it a little harder. And a pair of scissors, that's all you need. So a piece of board, a pair of scissors, and some old fabric, t-shirts, something like that you can cut and tie and use to make your project. I'm also going to be using a Sharpie to show you where I'm going to make my little notches on the cardboard to cut. You do not need to do that. I'm just doing that so that you can see it easier. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to cut our tabs along the top and bottom. We're going to mark out where they're going to go. So you're just going to do one finger width apart for each tab all the way across the top. And you want to have an odd number of these little tabs. So when you get close to the end, count them. And if you are close to an even number, you might need to try to fit a little extra one in there. It's okay if the last one's close to the edge. And then you're going to repeat across the bottom, and you need to have the exact same number along the top and the bottom. So here I have 9. And then you're going to use your scissors, and you're just going to cut each tab into the cardboard. So you're just going to cut along those lines. Next, we're going to cut up our old shirts to make them into long pieces of like string to weave with. So I'm just going to lay out one of my shirts starting at the very bottom edge, and I'm going to cut off that bottom hem because that's fabric that's doubled over and sewn up, and it won't stretch or be the same thickness as the rest of the fabric. Then you're going to lay your t-shirt out again nice and flat, and you're going to cut up along one of those sides. And so I actually find the hem that goes up along one of the sides up towards the arm of the shirt, and I just go ahead and cut that hem off. Then you're going to lay your shirt out again nice and flat, and we're going to start actually cutting it into strips. So you're just going to cut along that same length, the same bottom edge that you cut the hem off of. So I'm just starting on the side that's still connected, and I'm going to cut all the way to the side that's split, and I'm going to make strips that are about 2 fingers thick, so the same thickness as 2 of my fingers together. So I just start from one side and cut all the way across, and just repeat until you've gotten basically all the way up to the armpits. Now just repeat that process for each shirt. Next, you want to stretch out all your strips. It'll just make them work more like yarn or string. So just pull each one and they'll get longer and skinnier. Next, we need to start threading our loom. That's our cardboard. So we need to make the warp, which is the string that goes up and down. So to do that, you're going to start at the top. You can see I labeled the top just to help me keep track. And on your first 2 notches, you're going to take a piece of string and you're going to put them into the notches so that they make a loop on one side and that they're hanging down the other. Then you're going to pick a different color, or you can keep the same color if you want. I picked a different color. And you're going to do the same thing from the other side. You're going to put those 2 strings in so that on one side you have 2 strings in a loop, and on the other side you have 2 strings in a loop. So the loop at the top is going to be of the opposite color of string as the string that's hanging down. Now, at the bottom, you're going to take those first 2 strings and you're going to meet them on the very end, and you want to just tie them in a knot. It helped me to put one into one of those notches and then tie it in a knot first, but your goal is to have these 2 tie in a knot at the bottom of your weaving. So it can be right, the knot can sit like right in that notch, or it can be on one side or the other of that notch. The easiest way to tie knots for this project is just the first half of tying your shoe, which is crisscross and under, and then you do that times 2. So you can see I crisscross and undered my blue and green once, then I'm going to crisscross and under them a second time, pulling that knot really tight, and this knot's kind of sitting down in that little notch at the bottom, which is perfect, or like I said, it could be barely on one side or barely on the other side. So those are the first 2 strings that were hanging down. Then you're going to repeat for the other 2 strings that are right next to it. You can wait and trim all of these off after you've done all of them. I went ahead and trimmed them off one at a time just so they weren't quite in the way. So then you take your next string, pull it down, pull the other one down, meet them at that notch or put one into the notch, and crisscross and under and knot them. So you know you've done this right if at the bottom you have 2 knots now, and go ahead and make sure they're nice and tight. And then at the top you have a loop on each side, and then you have 2 strings going up and down. And now you're just going to repeat this again and again and again until you get to the end where you will just have 1 empty notch. So since I have 9 notches, I'm going to use 8. I'm going to have 8 strings going up and down, or I'm going to use 4 pieces of string on each side. So now that I have my pieces of string running up and down, it should be 8 warps on each side. That's 8 strings running from top to bottom. I need to put 1 more into this last 9th notch, except for this one, the string isn't going to be on both sides. It's only going to be on one side. So on one side, I'm going to have 9 pieces that go from the top to the bottom, or 9 warps. On the other side, I'm only going to have 8, and that's really important to have a different number on each side, to be off by 1. So I put in the top notch and the bottom notch. Now, the piece that's at the top, you're going to need maybe a little bit of extra, so I'm just going to cut it off to where I have like maybe a few inches. The bottom you are going to use, that's what you're going to tie on to start weaving. The top you are going to just completely ignore until you're ready to end your weaving. In fact, I usually tape it to the top so that it doesn't get in the way or I don't accidentally lose it or pull it out. So now we're ready to actually start weaving around your cardboard. So you're going to be creating the weft, which are the pieces that go around. So you're going to take your first piece and you're going to tie it to that extra 9th warp that we have loose just at the bottom. So it's that extra loose piece of string that was down there that was kind of all by itself, that didn't tie to anything. You're going to tie it onto your first piece of string to weave with, and you want that knot to be right where that warp is coming out of the cardboard. Then you're going to take that piece of string, make sure it's nice and stretched out, and you're just going to start with this first piece going up and down. You're going to go under it. Then you're going to go over the next one, under, over the next one, under the one after that, over, under, over. So it's a pattern back and forth, and you're going to pull that piece of string all the way through until there's no extra, and you're going to slide it down to the bottom. Now it's important to look at what you ended with. So you ended on the right side, because I always weave left to right, just like how we read, and I ended with over. So when I flip to this side and I take that into my string again, I'm going to start with under. I'm going to start with the opposite of what I ended with. I'm going to do this all the way across my weaving again. Now when you get to the end, check and see what you ended with, and when you start with the opposite. So this time I should be starting over, which makes sense because the last time I hit this string, I went under it. So each row or each weft you weave across, it should be doing the
opposite of the one right below it. So if you look at the second row of this blue-gray string, it's going over the ones that it went under before and under the ones that it went over before. And I'm just going to keep on doing this around my weaving. Now, this t-shirt's only going to last a couple times around, and I'm going to have knots going up each side of my weaving. So what I want is I want to end and tie on a new string on one of the sides of my weaving to create this fringe look that we're going for. And I want it to be the opposite side of where I had my last knot. So the knot that I tied this gray string on with was that one at the bottom that tied to our little misfit warp string. And that was on what's the left side right now that you're looking at. So I'm going to weave across this one more time to end this string on the right side, the opposite of where that last knot was. So I'm going to tie my next color on this side, and then I'm going to do the same thing, and when I'm getting close to the end of my next string, I'm going to try to end my string and tie a knot on the other side of my weaving so that my knots switch back and forth on each side of my weaving going all the way to the top. As you're weaving, one of the most important things to pay attention to is that every few times you go around or every time you change to a new color, you're pushing the weaving down as much as you can. You're getting those strings pushed closely together because that will help it hold together later. You can also use a pin to help you kind of slide your string through as you're getting close to the top. I just loop the piece of string into the cap under the little clip and then kind of push the pen through under each one, and that helps me fit them up there better. So once you've determined that you can't fit any more into your weaving whatsoever, there's no more room to weave any more string around, then you have to tie off your last weft string with that last extra little warp string. So that was that extra piece that we taped on at the top that was a little misfit string. So you need to take it, untape it, and whatever side it's on, if your last piece that you're weaving with isn't on the same edge, see how mine are on two different sides, I'm going to have to take that last piece of string and just weave it across one more time so it ends on that same top corner as that extra warp string. Remember, that was the string that we tied onto at the beginning, and so now you're going to tie onto it at the end. So you just weave across to it, pop it out of the cardboard first, that's very important, and then tie these two strings together. Your weaving is almost done, and now it's time to take it off of the cardboard. So remember, the bottom of the weaving where that fringe is, that's closed, whereas the top where those loops are, that's the open part of your pocket. So to make that open, you just take each of those loops and you pull them off of the little tab that they're on. So remember, every other tab has a loop on one side and a loop on the other side. So you just go back and forth, back and forth. So I had 4 loops on each side that I just need to pop off of the cardboard. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of bend the cardboard back and forth till you can see that the weaving's kind of separated from it. And you're just going to slide the weaving down or slide the cardboard up. And I kind of grab it from the bottom and pull it down to get all those little pieces out of the tabs at the bottom. Your weaving's all done, but a couple little bonuses you can add if you want. I think it looks cool to have more fringe or to have the fringe be thinner. So I'm taking the fringe around the edges and just cutting them straight up towards the knot to double them, to split them, to make them thinner and to make them look like there are more of them. You can also always add a handle or strap to the top if you want. You could use a single piece, or you could take a few pieces and braid them together and then just tie them on to some of those loose pieces at the top to add a strap. There's lots of other ways you could accessorize your pocket weaving, adding beads, buttons. You could really get as creative as you wanted, and I can't wait to see how you get creative accessorizing yours.
Alright, that's it. I hope you enjoy making your own recycled t-shirt pocket weaving. A couple tips now that I'm all done with this, and that I've actually done it with this material. The pieces that go up and down when you stretch them to the bottom to tie to get started before you start weaving, I'd stretch those pretty good, especially if it's like this really soft t-shirt material. If you're using like more of like a dress shirt material or a stiffer material, it probably won't stretch that much, but these really stretchy ones, I'd stretch those going this way just a little bit more. I think it would make the top a little bit easier to hide those last couple pieces. And I think that's about it. I hope that you guys enjoy making your fun, funky pocket weavings. If you don't like the look with all the fringe and the knots on the outside and you want more of the traditional looking weaving, there is a video on my YouTube channel that shows how to just start a normal weaving with string and yarn. You can just do the exact same thing, and it includes turning this inside out to hide all of the knots. So you could even just start with these pieces and tie a few of them together to make one longer piece of yarn to weave with, and I just tie your knots teeny tiny like that and cut off as much of this as possible. So you can totally do this as like a normal weaving, but to be honest, the kind of funky recycled look is really in right now, and I am just loving this fringe. I think that next year when we do these at school, this might be how we actually do them, because I think this came out great, and the soft, thick t-shirt material really makes this feel durable. So I hope you guys enjoy weaving. Thanks.